Perhaps you're wondering why they would shoot a man before throwing him out of a plane. We back, baby.
Ash and Zach are super smart. They went to college and learned a bunch of stuff. And Beau and Andrew didn't go to college because that's the way life goes sometimes. What happens when you put them together and you try to make them learn? Grab your friends, let's listen together on Get Dumped on an Info Dump podcast.
Welcome to Get Dumped on an Info Dump podcast. This is the podcast where four friends get together and we take turns dumping our special interest knowledge on the other. I am Ash. I am joined here getting dumped on today with me are Zach and Beau. Say hey, Zach and Beau.
Hey, I'm Beau. I'm Justin's replacement.
Hey, I'm Zach. I'm the founder of the podcast.
The
But
founder?
no, you're not.
Yeah, the founder.
I'm pretty
the
sure
only
it
one.
was like mine and Beau's
This is
idea.
my, yeah, it was
I'm
my,
the owner
like,
of the
Andrew's.
podcast.
It was a collective idea between all of us.
Yeah, no.
Wow, we're already starting to riff now.
Okay, cool.
Also, really quick, shout out to Justin, too. Just thanks for filling in, Justin. You're a friend of the
Thanks,
pod.
Justin.
Great guy. We love you.
weren't-
Come back
you weren't
anytime.
Good as me, but next best thing. Next big thing, big dog.
Yeah,
You're
and
here all the
I'm
time,
very happy
Justin.
to see Beau back, or to hear
I'm ready
Beau
to talk
back.
about
I missed
pirates
you.
and Vikings and a bunch of nerd shit because I'm a fucking nerd like Justin.
Well, Andrew, why don't you tell us what we're going to be getting dumped on today about? It's one of our rare elusive upper deckers from Andrew, the man himself. Hit it.
Hello. As always, must start it off the right way.
closing my
Open your
mouth.
mouth, bitches.
It's closed. It's
time
firmly
to get dumped
closed.
on Upper Decker style.
Oh, God, it's everywhere.
I've got a funnel this time.
Welcome back, Beau.
Oh, God.
So this one, I was planning a different dump, and then I somehow got roped into this one, and I don't want to tell you
Okay.
because the
gonna
other
spoil the
dump that I
story.
was preparing was so vastly different than this one. It makes no sense how I got roped into this other one.
But those are really the best ones, are the ones where it's like you get organically interested in something, like it just kind of comes up while you're doing some other research. I feel like some of my best episodes have been the ones where I just go down a little rabbit hole while I'm researching something else.
Yeah, so I wasn't even researching this, and then for some reason it popped in my head, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that would be cool to talk about." And then it's a story that I knew very cliff notes about, but I didn't know the whole thing. So today we're going to be talking about DB Cooper.
Oh, DB Cooper. Classic.
DB Coops. I love this guy.
So, Beau, do you know about DB Cooper?
Yeah, the guy who robbed and jumped out of a plane.
Yes, everyone knows that story. Do you know the after, including everything up to today?
I think something found in Mexico, used a stunt body double, something shit like that. All the conspiracy shit with DB Cooper.
I have no idea what you just said, but
Yeah.
no, really.
Oh,
So everyone knows the story of DB Cooper, of that thing that happened.
Hmm.
But everything after the fact is really what roped me in.
Okay. Let's hit me.
I don't think that I know
absolutely nuts.
everything that happened up till now.
Everything I know about DB Cooper is I watched one episode of BuzzFeed Unsolved about it, and that's literally the entirety of my knowledge about DB Cooper.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Ash, what about you?
Basically the same. I kind of knew about DB Cooper and I looked into it myself before the BuzzFeed episode, but that's what I remember the most.
So to fill everyone else in, for some reason, if you don't know about DB Cooper, on November 24th, 1971, is the day before Thanksgiving.
That's the
And
year
that's-
I was born.
No, it's not, because it was over 50 years ago.
Zach, you old bitch.
It just passed the 50-year anniversary of it. Like, it's 52 years now. Yeah, a guy named Dan Cooper goes into the Portland airport and buys a $20 one-way ticket from Portland, Oregon to Seattle, Washington.
Wow.
And
What's that
I
in today's
literally
money?
put in my notes, the next line says, break for talks about money. So go.
Honestly,
How much is that
What is
in
that?
today's money?
It's
I'm pulling it.
$150.
Oh,
Are you for
okay.
serious? It's
I looked it up.
$150.
Could you imagine getting a ticket on a plane for $150? Granted, it's a puddle jump. It's like a 30-minute flight.
Still.
And
Well,
I mean,
sure.
back in those days, you could just buy a ticket, go anywhere. You barely even had to have an ID.
And you
Dude.
can smoke on a plane.
You could smoke on planes. I looked up what security was like back then for
There
planes,
wasn't any,
and
right?
the answer was none.
Yeah.
You just walked in.
Yeah, just walked on the plane.
Living the dream.
9/11 changed everything.
Okay, so
mean, it did.
We'll circle back on this because there's a point I want to make, but I need to tell you about this story first before I start making my point.
Can I say
Ash, what were
really
you gonna
quickly, how much cooler is DB Cooper than Dan Cooper?
Right? It's that
So much
initial
cooler.
that really makes him sound like
So mysterious.
yeah.
It's so mysterious.
What does the B stand for, though?
Brown.
Bam.
Hold up on that.
It's
Hold
Dan
up on
Brown.
that.
Okay.
Hold up,
okay.
hold
He
up
wrote
on
the Da
that.
Vinci
Hold up on
Code.
that.
Am I
Hold up on
jumping
that.
ahead?
Stop
I'm
talking.
sorry.
Stop talking. Stop. Shut the fuck up. So,
Make me.
he gets on the plane. He has a dark briefcase. He has a paper bag. And before the plane took off, he ordered a bourbon and soda that apparently he quickly spilled and did not get to drink.
Doofus.
Is it me?
But
I
once
wonder
the
if
plane
that
is
was a
in,
How many had he
distraction.
already had before getting on the plane? That's the question.
I don't know. Bourbon and soda though, that's a hefty drink. That's a drink and a half.
That's the
Oh, do you
drink
like
of a
bourbon
man
soda?
who knows what he wants.
But like what?
Do you like a bourbon and soda? I know you like a
No, I'm
ginger
a-
ale.
I'm
and whiskey.
give me some ginger ale, some whiskey. I'm good. But you can mix anything because a bourbon and soda sounds good. You know,
I was gonna say if you were gonna rob or if you were gonna do a heist in this scenario, what's the drink you would order?
I'm gonna get me my whiskey and my ginger ale. I'm gonna sit there.
Is that what
get
it
a
is?
slice of lemon. Is it? I sit there. Yeah.
That's your go-to.
I love a whiskey
What-
ginger. So good.
I was gonna say, what about you, Ash? What about you, Zach? What are you
I
drinking
mean-
when you're about to heist?
I wouldn't drink anything because I don't want my DNA to be left behind. Although if this is the 60s and it's before DNA,
Oh yeah, this is before DNA. Yeah,
Yeah, nobody
way
got
before
DNA
it.
yet.
Can I change my answer?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a Four Loko, the original.
you're like, give me a Four Loko, honey, and she's like, what the fuck is that?
I was gonna
You
say
see,
I would.
future drink. It's mixed coffee and alcohol. It really gets the heart pumping.
I was gonna say I would probably drink a Moscow Mule first, so that I could bean somebody with the copper mug.
Oh, so
Oh, maybe a copper
you're already
mug.
expecting violence in this scenario.
Well, you know, stuff gets hairy.
you should
Yeah.
keep the mug and then use it as an improvised weapon later.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
I was on a plane recently and I had to get a Jack and Ginger because that was the only
Oh.
thing that they had. But it was good. I liked it.
It's good. I'm good with any whiskey ginger, but it has to be really Irish whiskey.
Well,
That
you
was
got to have a
perfect.
ginger ale on the plane. Like, I
No, I
always
don't.
get
I
the
don't.
ginger ale on the plane.
I always get a ginger ale.
Is that a rule? I've never had a
I
ginger ale
always
on a
get
plane.
a ginger ale.
I like.
Zach has a soft tummy. He needs his ginger ale.
I like never drink ginger ale like when I'm on land, but if I'm in a plane, it's like it's time for ginger ale.
What about on
same
sea?
with me, babe.
Yeah.
If you're on the ocean, are you drinking ginger ale?
Never had
Sure,
a
why
ginger
not?
ale at sea.
He's drinking salt.
I mean, honestly, I don't remember the last time I was on a boat. but,
Margaritas. That's what he's
now-
drinking.
Yeah, that does sound pretty nice. The last time I was on a boat, I was doing keg stands. I think I was like 24. When was that? Was that really the last time I was on a boat? Oh, God, I hope not.
Anyway, this man orders his drink, spills it all over himself. Not all over himself. He just apparently spilled it, and he didn't get a chance to drink it, which I
Do you
think is
think
sad.
that was a ruse?
I don't think so. I don't think it was a
Yeah.
ruse.
He took a whiskey drink. He took a vodka drink.
But that's again back in the
Took a
day.
cider
You
drink.
could order a drink before the plane takes off because they didn't care about tray tables and whatnot. So
We could do that in first class these days.
the plane finally gets in the air, and they're still to the point where flight attendants are not walking around yet. He's in the far back row in the far back right side of the 727. Behind him is seated a flight attendant in the jump seat. He hands her a note. She immediately puts it in her purse, does not read it. Absolutely hilarious. She thought that
just the idea of this steward as being like, what the hell? Okay.
she's like, thank you. Like this was a
Like
time
another
where
thank you note.
like air stewardesses and flight attendants, they were really like heavily sexualized in the 70s. They were like, ooh, come fly with us. Like, ooh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
A simpler
I assume
time
that's like the 400th note she got that day. Being like, hey, honey. So she was just like, whatever. And she threw it in her purse.
Want to join the
immediately.
Mile High Club?
Yeah. And so she threw it in her purse, and then he noticed it, and he's like, oh, fuck. He turns around and says to her softly, what he said to her was, Miss, you better look at that note. I have a bomb.
Oh,
Which it's like, would she have read the note if he didn't tell her that he had a bomb?
probably not. She probably
not.
would have like landed and then read it later
She's
when
like,
she got
okay,
home.
I'll definitely read that note.
Can you imagine trying to do a heist and they just don't pay attention to you? Like you're at a bank and you've got a gun and you just can't get anybody
I
to
literally
notice.
saw a
that-
TikTok
Ash
about
was
that.
telling me, Ash was just telling me about that. You saw a TikTok of somebody tried to rob a store.
I
and
think
like,
it was a nail salon, and he walked in
Yeah.
and was like, "Give me all your fucking money, get on the ground, put it in the bag," and everyone just looked at him like, "What?" And then he just turned
No.
around and walked away.
That's the best way. That's if someone tries to rob you, statistically they're probably not going to shoot you. So if you just take the chance on that one.
Yeah.
They
Just
didn't
ignore
even
him.
say they didn't even say no, like we're not giving you our money. They just all literally sat there and stared at him until he left.
That's so funny. I love that so much. So eventually she opened the note. It says, "Miss, I have a bomb in my briefcase. I want you to sit by me." So she did. She sat by him. He pulled out the briefcase. He opened it up. He showed it to her, and she said that she saw a cylindrical thing with 4 red things around it, which she assumed was dynamite, and had a bunch of wires and shit inside of it. He closed the briefcase after that. He sat calmly with her, and he said, "I want you to write down my demands." She wrote down the note with Cooper's demands, and she brought it to the cockpit. She informed the captain, the flight crew, everybody about the situation. The captain told her to stay in the cockpit and take notes as the rest of the flight unfolded. They then contacted, the ground and were like, "Hey, this guy's trying to extort us." Now, the perfect time to point this out. This apparently is not the first time this has happened. It's happened a bunch of times up to this point. For some reason, sky piracy was huge. And
Sky piracy.
That's literally what it was called. It's fucking crazy. And people would do it all the time, either for political reasons or trying to like elevate themselves as like, like Machine Gun Kelly or a famous asshole, essentially, a famous crime person, criminal. These happened all the time.
But what would your Sky Pirate name be?
Yes, I would like to know this. What was the fake name you would give in this scenario, like when you're buying a $20 ticket?
Beau.
It's like a Family Guy. He's like, "What's your name?" He's like, Peter Griffin. Yeah, Peter Griffin. Oh, damn it.
I got nothing. Don't put me in a spot.
We all know that Beau would choke under the pressure and give his full name and social security number.
That's Beau.
They're like, they don't even need the social security, but he's like, "Here you go."
You want to see my copy of my driver's license and birth certificate too?
What about you, Ash? What would your fake name be?
I want to be Sarah Connor.
Oh,
Like
I like
from
it.
Terminator?
Yup.
People love a reference.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm gonna cover that a little bit later. What about you, Zach?
Davy B. Robinya.
Classic. I love it.
Mr. Rabinia?
Was that Dutch? He gave her the demands, and then they took it. So what he requested was $200,000 of negligible American currency.
What does negligible
Small
American
bills?
currency be?
Small bills.
Okay.
In a backpack, or he called it a knapsack, by 5 p.m. So the plane took off at like 3 o'clock.
Now, was knapsack a word that people in the past, in the 60s, used, or was he like Canadian?
So knapsack was a word that they used. And I actually had to look it up just to be sure, because I was like, that's a weird way, but that's what it used to be called, was a knapsack back in the day. I'm not sure when the transition from backpack or knapsack to backpack happened, but it happened sometime in the last 50 years. So he also wanted 2 front parachutes, 2 back parachutes, and he again wanted the money in $20 bills. So he requested all the parachutes. I think that's a really smart move, because if you just request one single parachute, they know you're going to try and use it.
Give him the broken one.
Exactly. I think in this scenario, he he requested 4. He maybe wanted them to think that he was taking hostages with him. So they couldn't give him any broken ones or like fucked up ones, which I think is really smart.
Or he was just
Personally.
like, I'm going to get 4 just in case they're broken. It's because I'm not going to die jumping out of this plane.
He straps all of them to his body. So he got that. They landed in... Oh, yeah. So the craziest part about this, in my opinion, like of all things that happened in this story, this is one of the craziest things, is that as soon as that happened, they said, okay, well, we're going to land in Seattle to get you your stuff. So they're still going to their location. They told everyone on the plane that there was an issue with the engine, and they needed everyone to move to the front seats of the plane, except for him. Obviously, he's sitting in the far back. So they're like, oh, yeah, we're not in any danger, but can everyone just move to the front of the plane? and we're going to circle around and wait till it's safe to land. So they flew around the air for 2 hours above Seattle while they were trying to get the guy's stuff.
Where was their original destination?
Seattle. They were going to the right place. They landed in the right place because it was just a puddle jump plane.
Yeah.
So there was 43 people on the plane, including like the sky, crew. So they fly around for 2 hours. They land. The flight attendant runs off, grabs the money, grabs the parachutes, brings them back on, and he made sure to say, like, obviously, don't send anybody else up here, or else I'm going to blow this motherfucker up.
I don't know why I thought you were going to say he made sure to say please and thank you.
He seems like that kind of guy. I'm going to be completely honest.
Yeah. So the flight attendant that sat with him the entire plane, like she said that he was really nice. Like he was completely respectful. He didn't use any bad words. He was dressed really nicely. He was dressed in a suit. And she's like, he was just a nice person. And he even said, like, as they were flying through the sky, he would look out the window and be like, oh, that looks like Tacoma. Or like that. He was just being a nice person. It didn't seem like he had any malicious, stuff for anybody else on the plane.
Except
he
for
was
the
just
bomb
trying to
in his
get some
lap.
money. He was
She fell in love
literally
with
just
him.
getting money. So yeah, he said, no funny stuff or I'll blow this motherfucker up. That's pretty much the only mean thing that he said. But he also didn't say motherfucker.
Did we already cover this? Why was there so much money on the plane?
What? No, so they landed, they flew around Seattle for 2 hours so they could get the money figured out.
I must have zoned out. I'm sorry, I'm stupid.
That's fine. It happens. So they land. He sends the flight attendant out who gets the money and the parachutes, brings him back onto the plane, and then the passengers get off. They walk off, they walk into the airport, and they are swarmed with FBI agents and reporters, and they have no fucking idea why.
Like, wow, that engine trouble must have been crazy.
The people on the plane had no idea this was fucking happening, and they didn't know until after they were off of the plane, which, bravo.
Wow.
If you can pull a heist in a metal tube in the sky and only have 3 people know that it's happening, fucking bravo.
That's like wet work, That's some real stealthy fucking Sam Fisher shit right there.
Yeah. That's really, I love that part of the story is they're just, no one knew. Like they all got off the plane. They're like, what?
It was really good under pressure as well to not let anything slip.
The crew, he kept his cool. So then they kept their cool and everyone was none the wiser. Nobody got hurt. Bravo on that front. He requested that they refuel the plane, and he said that he wanted to go to Mexico. They said that the next place would be Mexico City. However, the pilot was like, "Hey, man, this is at 7:27. I can't go that far.
This plane can take you to Idaho."
Yeah. So he's like, "I can make it to Reno before we need to refuel." And Cooper was like, "Yeah, that's totally cool. Let's do that." They start flying. He requested some very specific things, that they stay below 10,000 feet, that they go as slow as possible, 115 miles an hour, and a maximum of 10,000 foot altitude, which the pilots had no idea that was possible. They thought that was too slow and that was too low, and he straight up said, it can be done.
Uh-huh.
So he knew a lot about planes. He also requested that the flaps were down on the wings. I don't know why that was a thing, but again, he requested it.
Keeps it slow?
Maybe. And the cabin must remain unpressurized. And also the landing gear must have stayed down as well.
Do you think that he actually knew anything about planes, or was he just really confident? Like, is he the exact example of, like, if you're wearing a suit and holding a clipboard, you can get in anywhere?
In this scenario, I don't think so, because he said literally exactly 115 miles an hour, 10,000 foot altitude, wing flaps lowered 15 degrees. He knew exactly what he was doing.
And there wasn't Google back then, so he couldn't be like, I watched a YouTube video that says that you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and literally when they said, like, the pilot was like, I don't think that's possible. And he just said, and I quote, it can be done, do it.
Wow.
Do it.
So they didn't argue with him. They did it. Yeah, again, they took off around 7:40 p.m. The Air Force Base nearby, they actually scrambled a couple of jet fighters that followed them in like zigzags and above them, so Cooper couldn't see them, which is pretty smart too.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that idea. They were in the air, and Cooper told he said the flight attendant can stay back here with me. Everybody else stay up front. The pilot, co-pilot, and navigator were all up front. and the flight attendant was back with him. Her name was Mucklow, was her last name. He asked her to lower the staircase at the back of the plane, because that's how you used to enter planes, was at the back. It would lower down right up.
Enter through the butt. All right.
Essentially, yeah. You do
Nice.
that. So she told him, he's like, hey, can you lower the staircase? And she's like, I'm getting fucking sucked out of here. Absolutely not. Like, I'm terrified of this. So she asked the crew of the cockpit to retrieve an emergency rope. And then Cooper was like, no, you don't need that. It's okay. But she kept saying how scared she was. So eventually he was like, you know what? I got it. I know how to do this. He sent her back to the cockpit and said, you don't need to come back here anymore. Thanks for everything. See you later, tuts. Something like that, I assume. Like, get out of here, you little scamp. Yeah. So he lowers it down. The crew at the front heard, or they felt it in their ears that, the door was open, cabin like super depressurized. The pilot asked the intercom if he needed went on the intercom and asked Cooper if he needed assistance. And the last message Cooper said was one word. Nope.
All right.
After that, yeah, he was confident. Right around 8:13, so they've been in the air for about a half an hour. The pilots noticed that they started to go on the intercom again. They're trying to talk to him. He would not respond. So at that point, dude jumped. He took the money. He took the parachutes. I don't know how many parachutes he ended up taking. They didn't really specify like how many, if they left any in the plane with him. But he requested 4. Obviously, he's not going to wear 4, right?
Right.
One on each arm, one on each leg.
Flies down, facing down with like
like
at the beginning
squirrel.
He's like a quadcopter, but with parachutes.
The beginning of what's it called? Tears of the Kingdom, where Link is just falling straight down, like face first. Like that's what's happening.
Yeah, but with parachutes.
But with parachutes. So yeah, then he was gone, and that's the end of the story.
Or is it?
Yeah.
Or is it? The plane ended up landing in Reno.
And the cops were like, let's get him. And they were like, he's not here.
Well, so the pilots like popped their head back there because they're like, we haven't heard from him in a while. Because he jumped out half hour after they left from Seattle. So roughly over the Portland area, they would have been sort of somewhere around there.
Oh, but what if he met a Bigfoot?
So
Oh my gosh.
Speaking of Bigfoot, this has actually become a giant piece of lore in the Pacific Northwest. There's DB Cooper themed bars, escape rooms. There's even something called CooperCon that I found out about, where a bunch of people meet up in Vancouver, Washington, and talk about this whole thing. New theories.
Do they wear nice
new
suits
stuff.
and wear sunglasses? And
Most likely, yeah. So the flight landed at Reno. FBI agents, state troopers, sheriff people, Reno police, they all stormed it. And they thought the bomb was still aboard. So like the cabin or the captain like popped his head out and was like, what the fuck? He's not here anymore. He must have jumped out. They did a little 30-minute search. The bomb squad came in completely safe. Oh, he took the bomb with him as well. Bomb was nowhere to be found.
that was not a real bomb. That was
Probably
a
not.
Pringles can and some wires.
Yeah.
So once again,
that's the good thing is that a bomb, if you're like doing something with a bomb, using it to threaten people, it just needs to look like a bomb.
yeah, this is not the first time this has happened. People have been doing this apparently a lot, to where they would parachute out of planes.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
He's not the first guy to do this, which is nuts to me, going back to the conversation of security.
There's nothing
If this happens,
new under the sun.
if this happened more than once, you should change the way you do stuff. Have
Like,
someone.
At least someone be like, we're going to patch it down and make sure that you don't have a bomb before you get on the plane. You
Anything,
understand.
Hey, man, show me your bag. Like, it's...
Yeah, ask people to open. Just hey, can you open that briefcase, please?
Yeah, just a
Can
simple,
we
like,
get,
scrub. Anything.
The little sticks that security use at like concerts and festivals and stuff to like look inside your bag.
Something like
Yeah.
that. Like, if it's happened more than once, like, essentially, it was a bus stop. People would just go up, and then the plane would pull up, and they'd get on.
Did metal detectors exist back then?
They may have, but they definitely were not anywhere near any airports ever. If they did exist, they did not exist there. That's the end of that story. Next comes like that whole story, though. That happened 100%. That is the lore of DB Cooper. He pulled off one of the coolest heists in history.
Yeah.
Acting cool as cucumber. They said that he was, dressed to the nines. He had these sweet sunglasses on. There's all of the sketches of him just make him look like a super cool guy. And how can you not like this guy? He pulled off a heist, hurt no one, and parachuted out of a fucking plane. He did it so well that not even anyone on the plane knew that it happened. That's fucking awesome. Good for him.
Yeah, it's super slick.
Pretty slick heist.
And so he became a folk hero immediately. Everyone was like, dude, he got away. Like, let him go.
He didn't let his rocky start deter him. I think a lot of people, once the flight attendant spilling the drink and then the flight attendant putting the note in the bag, be like, you know what? Maybe it's not my day to do a heist.
That could have deterred most people, but this guy, he was ready. He
Cool
was
as a
definitely
cucumber.
ready. So let's do the first before I get into the investigation area part of it. What does DB stand for? 3 chumps and a dump. 3 wrong answers, 1 correct answer.
I think it stands for
So
he's gonna tell us.
massive ball.
I was gonna give you answers.
He's giving us options.
Did you
so
say
you wanted to just jump in
massive
there,
balls?
it's me, the massive balls Cooper. I'm here to rob this plane.
Okay, so does it stand for Demassive Balls Cooper, Dan Brown Cooper, Dan Barry Cooper, or nothing?
I'm gonna say it stands for nothing. Like Johnny
Yeah, I think
Cash.
it stands for nothing. I think it's a nothing.
I'm
fake
going
name.
with the balls one.
Well, even if it was a fake name, like did he give them?
No.
Did
It's
he
just
give them
DB.
the name DB Cooper?
No.
I think it's like how Johnny Cash's birth name is JR.
What the hell?
My dad's legal middle name is C because my grandma thought it was supposed to be the initial.
That's pretty baller.
It's like
though.
Homer J. Simpson.
Yeah.
Just call my
I
dad
think
O.J.
that-
Simpson.
I
No,
think
Homer
that
J.
Oh.
Simpson.
Oh, I heard O.J. Simpson.
Jesus Christ.
Your dad is
I was
O.J.
confused.
Simpson?
Your dad was the juice? Do you have a
he-
Bronco
oh
in the
my
garage?
God, oh my God.
Okay.
And he was
Speaking of crime.
He was
I
innocent.
think that DB Cooper is just something that is like a myth, like that just came out of someone, like a journalist or something who thought it sounded cool.
Hmm.
I don't think it exists. I don't think that DB Cooper actually exists.
So
that
his
way.
ticket said Dan Cooper. He never gave a middle name. So the answer is nothing. Because
So the
Well,
they
B
said
just
someone
comes-
fucked up somewhere when they were reporting on it, and instead of writing Dan Cooper, they wrote DB Cooper, and it stuck. Literally, in no point of him saying this entire heist, he put down Dan Cooper on his ticket. So DB Cooper is the name itself is just from a mistake from a media outlet.
I
So
get
Ash,
it.
you were
I get
100%
that.
correct.
Way to
Nailed
go,
it.
Ash. Way to go, Ash.
Oh,
Fucking killing it over
wicked
here.
smart.
It's a fucking wicked snot.
The FBI themselves said they had no fucking idea where DB came from.
But it sounds cool.
It sounds cool as fuck. That's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
Into the investigation portion of this. From the beginning of the investigation, the FBI was extremely skeptical about Cooper's chances and speculated he did not survive the jump because, one, it was at night, pitch black over, forest areas. You probably couldn't even see the ground coming.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty like a recipe for getting impaled on a tree.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like, think about it back in the day, too, in the 70s. There wasn't as much light pollution as there is now.
That's true.
Yeah.
But even if you are sky jumping at night over a forest area, even now with light pollution, you can't see shit. If you're falling to this, you're flying toward the ground as fast as fucking possible, you really won't know how close you are
Yeah.
until it actually happens.
Did he have goggles?
He did have goggles. So he
Oh,
did
that's
slap
helpful, at
on
least.
some sweet goggles right before he jumped off. Again, this guy's cool as a cucumber.
But
so
if you
he also
did the
go
research enough to know that you can fly a plane that low and it has to be this specific speed, do you think you could do some math or talk to somebody and be like, okay, so I have to count 5 seconds and then pull my parachute and I'll be fine?
That's true. And his extensive knowledge of the plane, how fast it would go, how low it could go, and how to operate it leads me to believe that this motherfucker knows what he's talking about, not only plane-wise, but he probably knew what he was talking about falling-wise,
Also,
parachute-wise.
he probably had flashlights on the bottom of his shoes.
Maybe. He could have had, Tony Stark jets down there and didn't even need the parachutes.
That was a distraction.
or he could be a fucking alien who knows how to fly. Like we could just say
So
anything.
there's-
Oh, he was
Surprisingly
Superman.
enough, I did read a theory
And
that
he
someone
just
said he was an
flew
alien,
away.
but we're gonna stick with human human stuff on this
He was
one.
the
No
Martian
Bigfoot, no
Manhunter.
alien. So he was wearing loafers, so he wasn't wearing jump boots. He also didn't appear to have
jump
any
boots are a thing?
survival. Yeah, apparently jump boots are a thing. They're like, I don't know what they are, but they do help aiding with landing. I assume they like hold your legs up, like kind of like motorcycle boots, so you don't like break your ankles.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
I'm assuming. There's speculation completely on my part, but I assume that's what jump boots are. It was pitch black. It was raining. It was really stormy.
Oh my God.
There was cloud cover above all of that darkness. So even if he got through the clouds, those clouds are not very high up. And as soon as he got through those clouds, ground.
This motherfucker's dead.
That's crazy. But the wind was also going at 172 miles an hour.
Ooh,
Wow.
that's fast.
It
Not
was
that fast.
15 degrees.
Did you
Ooh.
just say that you can run that fast, Beau?
I said it's not that fast, and I can also run that. I can also run that fast. Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, we went to the.
What a race me, bitch! I'm fast as fuck.
When I was a kid, I went to New York City and we went to the top of the World Trade Center, and I distinctly remember it being we were allowed to go up on the top, like outside of the top of it, and it was
The World Trade Center or
incredibly
the
windy.
Empire State Building?
The World Trade Center.
Oh.
It was like, from what my understanding, it was not like guaranteed that you'd be able to go out on like the deck, but for whatever reason, the day that we went, we were allowed to go out. But I remember being windy as hell, to the point where if you like just stood and jumped straight up into the air, you'd land like 4 or 5 feet behind where you started.
That's positively horrifying.
Right?
Well,
Yeah, it's fucked up.
There was like caging around it. Like you wouldn't have to worry about like falling off.
That's
but it was
still
still
terrifying.
Scary. Yeah.
That's still
Really scary.
terrifying. Even if there
But
was
you-
a cage there, like I'd be like, if it did, for some reason, I get picked up into that cage, I'd be the first person for it to fail.
Mm-hmm.
bunch of cowards. What's all of you cowards? Fucking jumping.
So, speaking of jumping, so he jumped out. It was 15 degrees, pitch black, raining, 172 mile an hour winds. He was not dressed for winter. He did have a coat, but not for 15 degrees. And he didn't seem to have any like survival stuff with him.
Mm-hmm.
He was
Like
really.
if he landed in the middle of the forest, like he's wearing loafers.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How much does $20,000 of $20 bills weigh?
200,000. And it's
Oh, that's what I meant.
25 pounds, 30 pounds.
Wow.
That's heavy.
It's kind of heavy.
If you're
Oh, does DB stand for Dat Beau? Because Beau's so confident about jumping out of
Here
a
comes
plane.
Dat Beau.
Here comes Dat Beau.
that Beau Cooper stealing planes.
So they don't know if he had an accomplice to help him escape. There was really no evidence of that. Essentially, after he left the plane, there was no evidence of anything until like years later. But we'll talk about that later. Some people have been reported to say that they did see flares in the sky around the Portland area the night and the time of the jump. That's unverified, unconfirmed. However, it
Oh my
would
God,
make
he
sense.
had another bomb on him and it exploded when he was in midair.
Oh my God. Can you
He
imagine?
wanted everyone to have a show. He wanted everyone to have a show. But that was unconfirmed. I can't say for certain that was a thing. Who knows? The FBI might know something that we don't, but that some people have said that they did see it, the flares in the sky. The FBI, though, initially didn't think that Cooper was going to survive because of all the factors in that jump. However, there were, I think, 5 more robberies that were literally exactly this after him, copycat robberies. All 5 of them jumped out of the planes at higher speeds, at higher altitudes, and all 5 of them survived.
Were they at night?
I think some of them were at night. Let me double check, but
Oh,
I'm
well,
pretty
dang.
sure.
Well, if that's the case,
Yeah.
then he's probably fine.
He's
Yeah.
probably, who knows? So the FBI initially was like, this guy's dead. But then after they caught 5 other guys doing this with crazier conditions, they were like, hold up, this guy might not be dead.
Actually,
That's nuts.
are there any crazy adrenaline junkies out there who have recreated the conditions and attempted it themselves?
I don't know. I hope so. I mean, he's such a big, like, this is a big story. There has to be someone who was like, we're going to recreate the DB Cooper thing.
Some
there
like
has to be.
paratrooper guy.
Yeah, there absolutely has to be.
Yeah, they probably did it for like some Discovery Channel, like
Oh,
the
I would watch
real
that.
story of DB Cooper.
But yeah, so there was specifically, it was all 727s, the same planes, and there was dudes who jumped out in just like trousers, a shirt, cowboy boots, and landed in freezing January over northern Colorado, landed in the snow, completely fine. Were arrested, but were completely fine.
Well, the
So,
snow,
yeah,
I
there's-
mean, that's a lot softer than a bunch of trees.
Yeah,
It's
rather
true,
than snow.
but it was also snowing when DB Cooper jumped out, and it snowed the next day, like I think it's 27 inches. So
Oh,
Wow.
if he didn't make it to safety by then, he was probably a frozen popsicle.
No, he was long gone by then.
So they
B stands
initially.
for super.
Go for it.
Ah, damn,
Go for it.
I got nothing. Nope.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So initially he was charged with, obviously Dan Cooper was charged, fake name, obviously. He was charged with air piracy, but after a certain amount of time, like air piracy has a statute of limitations, kind of like every crime. Like after a certain amount of time, you can't be tried for it. So they changed it to be a violation of the Hobbs Act, which has something to do with extortion, and it has no statute of limitations. So even
That's
if they
shady.
caught somebody, yeah, if somebody gets caught today, they could still be charged for that crime 50 years ago.
Huh.
It's fucking nuts. So there were a few suspects and a few theories. We're going to go over a few of them, and you get to tell me what you think. Well, the first guy, this guy's name is Richard Floyd McCoy. Great name. I think that's a good criminal name.
that's a good
It sort of
boxer name.
rhymes. It is also a good boxer
It's a
name.
real top-notch name. I would, if you introduced me to a guy who's named, what'd you say, Richard Floyd McCoy?
Richard Floyd McCoy.
What a name.
I would, dude, I'd be chewing on that name all night. Like, I'd just be like walking around the house, be like, Richard Floyd McCoy.
You would
Richard
never
Floyd
not say
McCoy.
the three. You'd be like, there's Richard.
Yeah, you have
You'd be
to.
like, there's
McCoy.
Richard Floyd McCoy.
It's the Floyd McCoy. Like, Richard McCoy, it's like, okay, that's pretty cool. But Richard Floyd McCoy, it's like, oh, fuck, that's the coolest man I've ever met.
He was a suspect because 4.5 months later, he pulled a heist. He hijacked a Boeing 727. He requested
Wow.
parachutes. He requested 4 parachutes. He was completely calm during the heist. He passed a note about the bomb to the stewardess, and both notes from DB Cooper and McCoy had the term, in quotes, "no funny stuff."
Oh.
No funny stuff, see?
No funny stuff. See, man.
Hey, I'm Richard Floyd McCoy, and I say no funny stuff.
I assume that's exactly what he sounded like. The FBI immediately was like, okay, this motherfucker. So he gets caught for, sky piracy. Yeah.
Sky receipt. I got it. I got there eventually.
The only reason that he was dropped as a suspect in the DB Cooper case was because the description didn't match close enough to what the witnesses said. So that they even showed the flight attendant in his picture, and they're like, that was not him. However, he did a great job recreating it 4.5 months later. But also, man, 4.5 months, bro. Like, let it cool off.
Yeah.
They probably got obviously they didn't do anything security wise, but maybe the after stuff, they're like, oh, we'll figure it out. We'll find out how to find a parachuting man easier.
Yeah, the next time this happens, we'll make sure to do this thing.
Yeah. So
I'm not a cop, I don't
know. He never claimed to be DB Cooper from anything that I've read. He got incarcerated at the federal penitentiary in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania for 45 years.
Whoa.
Wow.
Actually, well, that's what he was sentenced to. However, he used his access to the prison's dental office to make a fake handgun out of dental paste. Him and 3 other guys broke out of that prison 2 years later in 1974. Wait, he was like 2 years into his 45-year run. He's like, fuck no.
This
I'm
guy's
out.
awesome.
He's pretty fucking cool. Gotta be.
Floyd.
Like reading about all these old guys, like all these old, heist people. It's pretty fucking cool. I know they're criminals and everything, but like you said about the whalers thing, there's a romanticism about it.
Yeah.
But this makes sense. It's not like whaling.
What happened to RFM after he bust out of prison?
So he busts out of prison. He took a garbage truck with those 4 guys and crashed it through the prison's gate.
Holy shit style.
Oh my
Fucking
god.
dope as shit. I wish I could have seen that. And then 2 of the guys he was with were captured 3 days later following a shootout after a bank robbery. So 2 of those guys were like, let's go rob a bank immediately. Floyd McCoy and another guy were like, fuck no, let's
I
chill.
only rob airplanes.
Yeah. But 3 months later, the FBI actually located McCoy. He was in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And they found his house, or the house he was staying in or something. They were there when he came home and tried to surprise him. And there was 3 FBI agents sitting in his living room when he walked in. He did not like this, immediately pulled out a gun and tried to fire at them.
Oh,
They obviously fired back, and they killed the shit out of him.
Oh, damn.
went on a blaze
And
of
then-
glory.
Yeah, he died there. And then his other buddy that was with him, he tried to get away, but he was caught.
Rough
So,
end
yeah.
for
Floyd
For our
McCoy,
boy.
you know what? He did successfully rob a plane. He got caught, but he did do it. He landed on the ground. He did it. But he never
Good
once
job.
claimed to be DB Cooper.
Or wise man.
However, just because
What
you
about
don't
a
claim
poor
to
man
doesn't mean
scheming?
that just stop it. So yeah,
This
just because
is
he never
how-
claimed to, though,
This
maybe
is
he just
how
didn't want to
you
be charged for that
remind
crime.
me of DB Cooper.
I don't know if I buy it. I don't know
either, especially since they showed the flight attendants' pictures.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. So that moves us on to suspect number 2. Is a guy named Dwayne Weber. He claimed to be DB Cooper on his deathbed.
Hmm.
I don't
Very
believe
interesting.
it.
I don't buy it. This sounds
So
like
his wife, Jo, stated that he pulled her in really close on his deathbed. He said, I have a secret to tell you. I'm Dan Cooper. He didn't say DB. He said Dan Cooper. Apparently, this name meant absolutely nothing to her. No idea.
She's like, Bill, are you okay?
She's like,
Oh, Dwayne, that
are
was
you
his name.
Dwayne, are you? What?
who's Dan
Okay.
Cooper?
So she told her friend a few months later that he said that, and the friend was like, "What? Like the famous hijacker guy? Like that's fucking awesome." So she went to her library to research him. She found a book by Max Gunther, who wrote all about it, and discovered notations in the margins in her husband's handwriting after he passed away.
Oh,
Hmm.
that's interesting.
Yes.
What did they say?
Apparently, no idea. Did not get that information.
Can you imagine having to go to a library to learn anything? Oh my God, I'd be so stupid all the time.
Dude, awful. That's why, like, people were, like, easily tricked back then.
Yeah, I mean, you could be. That's like why they that's why Guinness started the world record book, right? It was because people were just like having all these conversations in bars and just bullshitting each other, and then the Guinness company was like, "Oh, we'll make a book with all the world records in it, so that every bar can have a copy of this, and then people will actually know who is the fattest man in the world."
Really important.
Yeah, like, have you met all the fattest people in
Information.
the world? Or is it just like you met just a fat guy and you're like, all right, you're it?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, just back in the day, you could just say anything to anybody, and it would be days
believe
before
you.
they could figure out if you were wrong or not.
Yeah, they would 100% believe you because there's literally no way for them to confirm it. So this guy also apparently was known for drinking bourbon and chain smoking. I forgot to mention earlier, Dan Cooper on the plane, he had a decent amount of cigarettes.
What about DB Cooper though? How many cigarettes?
DB Cooper as well, a decent amount of cigarettes on the plane
Okay.
as he was doing the heist. This leads us to a very odd part of this story that I don't know if you guys know about. So in 1979, Dwayne Weber and his wife, Jo, took a trip to Seattle, and they were on, what's the river called? I don't know. They were
The
near a
Nile.
river. So in 1979, his wife remembered him throwing a trash bag just upstream of an area called Tina Bar, which is just it was like a little exit point for a river that went to a
Just
bigger river.
Throwing
in
a
Seattle.
trash bag in the river?
Just throwing a trash bag in the river. 1979.
Wow, this dude's a scumbag. Just fucking
That's not
throwing
sketchy.
trash bags in the river.
in
Littering asshole.
In 1980, an 8-year-old was vacationing with his family. His name was Brian Ingram on the Columbia River. That's what it was. That also known as the beachfront known as Tina Bar. It's, 9 miles it says here from Vancouver, Washington. As he was raking in the sand, they were going to make a campfire. He uncovered 3 packets of $20 bills, totaling $5,800. The bills were disintegrated from exposure, to water and sand and
Mhm.
stuff, but they were still in the rubber bands. And the FBI confirmed that money was indeed part of the money given to DB Cooper.
Oh, interesting.
So this was in 1980, and apparently in 1979, Dwayne Weber and his wife were there just upstream from that place, and he threw a bag of trash into that same river.
Why is he
Interesting.
throwing away the money? I feel like it was so
No
easy to money launder
fucking
in the 70s.
Idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
No idea. So why would he throw away that money? What would be the point to throw away $6,000 of it in a river? What?
Were the cops? Did he
8
like
years
think
later?
that the fuzz was onto him,
No idea.
or
So
did he
that-
want to leave that life behind?
Yeah, and that raises a lot of questions. I'm trying to put my mind if he was DB Cooper, why the fuck would you do that? You're good. This is 8 years later. You've got away with it. You're done. What would be the point of that?
The only
If
reason I
you-
could
you-
think of is if he was like, if it was like one of those like personal reckoning moments where he's like ashamed of his past actions and wants to become a new
Reckoning?
person.
Oh God, Bane's
What'd you
back.
say?
Reckoning. I did it in a Bane impression though.
Reckoning, you say?
Or
Oh,
he
It's
Bane's
very
awesome
similar
reckoning.
to the intro to Bane's intro. You know, parachuting out of a plane.
Perhaps you're wondering why they would shoot a man before throwing him out of a plane.
So what
We
you're
back,
saying
baby.
is DB Cooper is Bane. Bane is DB Cooper.
Dat
The only
Bane
thing I can think is
Cooper.
that if you thought the cops were onto him and he didn't want to get caught with the money.
I don't know. It's from everything that I've read, the cops have literally never been close. Like they had over 1,000 suspects, and not one of them they were able to pin this on.
Yeah, and the only reason we know this guy is because he confessed on his deathbed. So
So yeah, and exactly.
Yeah.
So no one thought before that at all.
Did you ever? What if he was? After he died, did they find any carved wooden feet in his shed?
Call back previous episode. Please listen. The bills were really deteriorated though, and so they went in 1979, and the bills were found in 1980. And scientists believed that the bills, they couldn't have been there for only a year with the amount of deterioration that they had.
that was
So
my
they
first question.
believed-
Was
Yeah,
like
so they-
when they look at it, how long had they been in the water?
Yeah, so they think that the bills were there anytime like after 1974, which is a couple of years after the hijacking happened. But obviously before Dwayne and his wife Jo went to that place. So scientists were like, nah, it's probably not you. So they never really went after Joe or Dwayne.
What if he knew Dan Cooper? Like he was a friend of his, and so like he went to that location to like check on stuff, and he knew that Dan had put the stuff there, or he was like a real like Cooper head and was like researching the case on his own, and he was like trying to like track the case or something. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe he was just a litterer who liked to lie.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people just suck.
I'm gonna go to this place for my DB Cooper trip, and while I'm there, I'm just gonna litter a little.
So there's another guy named Robert Rackstraw. He was one of the main suspects for a while in the 70s.
I'm sorry. Say that again?
Robert Rackstraw.
Oh.
He was he was in the army. He was in Vietnam. He was known for being an awesome pilot. He knew a lot about plane stuff. After Vietnam, he was very big in being a con man. It was actually
Classic.
some of the things he did was really fucked up. Gotta be honest. I'm not gonna talk about those things though, because this guy was not he was not a model human for a while there. But some of the things he did was like he would trick people. Once I heard a story about he told his friends that he was in the Playboy Club in LA. He said he and his friends got in a car. They drove to the Playboy Club, and he was wearing a jacket with like flight wings on it, like he was a pilot. Apparently, he called the club on the way there and said that Governor Ronald Reagan's personal pilot was coming in and to give him the bells and whistles and show him a good time. So he himself called the club
Okay.
and did that. And they showed up and they're like, come on in, sir. And he even gave him like his last name, Rackstraw. They're like, come in, Mr. Rackstraw. And that's the guy he was. He would trick people all the time and get whatever he wanted. So he was a really big suspect for a while. However, they cut him off. The FBI cut him off because he was 20 years younger than what they described DB Cooper was from the flight attendant.
Mm.
However, he was a very, there's a lot of stuff on him. I'm not going to go too far into it because we're getting kind of the end here, but there was a lot of stuff on his end too, where it made him seem like it. But they were really never able to check all the boxes. You know what I mean? Like one guy was too young. One guy didn't look like him. One guy gave weird, weird timelines. Like nothing was ever boom, 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 boom.
No smoking gun. We got him.
No
It's
smoking
Dan.
gun. One last guy, his name is Kenneth Christensen. This is all the way in 2003. A guy was watching Unsolved Mysteries, and
Great
he
show.
became convinced that his late brother, who passed away in 1994, was D.B. Cooper. And he tracked down the guy who made the Unsolved Mysteries. He contacted a private investigator. He said that his brother was definitely the hijacker. He had all the skills. He had all the evidence. And on his deathbed, his brother said, "I have a secret to tell you, but I can't," and then died.
Oh my God, what a dick.
It's kind of fucked up. But he was a flight attendant. He worked for the airline Northwest Orient at the time, that then became Delta later on. He worked for that same airline that was hijacked, and he was based in Seattle. And he was also like in the Army and did flight jumping and stuff. So this is another one where he also had a fondness for bourbon. It was really interesting. This one was too, because like it was checking a lot of the boxes, but eventually the FBI they stood by the position he's not a prime suspect. They said it again, poor match to eyewitness physical descriptions. It's not going to work. Could he have been, wearing makeup, dyed his hair, a wig? Who knows? What do you think?
I think it was Floyd McCoy because he has the coolest name.
So there's one more theory that I want to hit you guys with that I don't think you guys know, because this is relatively new. Did you know that Dan Cooper is the name of a French-Canadian comic book hero?
Really?
Yes. Dan Cooper is a pilot. It was written all in French, and it was only in Canada, in French Canada. He was a suave, well-dressed, handsome man who frequently parachuted out of airplanes, constantly was doing cool shit like that. And his name was Dan Cooper. Very popular in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and 70s in French Canada.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
at the time,
So it's a Canadian.
there's a weird moment, I guess, in the 70s. I didn't really know about this in Canada, where they were trying to distance themselves from the US when it came to defense stuff. So if the US would have came to them and said, "Hey, can we investigate a guy in Canada?" they would have shut it down. They would have been like, "No, you go your way, we go our way. It's completely fine." However, there was a specific story of one of the Dan Cooper comic books with him being on a 727, dressed to the nines in the exact same way that D.B. Cooper was. He held a briefcase with him, and he parachuted out of that same 727 that left out of Seattle.
Whoa.
Now, I don't think Dan Cooper was the person stealing money in this thing, but there's a lot of boxes from similarities from the comic book to the actual story that happened. And there's a few Canadian people that were talked to, like defense ministers, that said, "Holy shit." Like they immediately, when they heard the story, they're like, "Dan Cooper, wait, he jumped out of a 727? This Dan Cooper does this."
That's really funny. It's interesting
That's
because
nuts.
when you were talking before and he said, "I want to go to Mexico," I was like, well, why wouldn't you want to go to Canada? Because
So much closer.
it's so much closer.
Yeah.
But if he was Canadian, then he wouldn't be like, "Hey,
And-
let's go to my home country, eh?"
He requested negligible American currency. If you're an American, why would you
he
request
used those
American
words?
currency? He used those exact words.
He's
If you're in America,
Canadian.
Why would you be like, "Give me American dollars"?
I don't know. He's also the kind of guy to say no funny stuff.
No funny stuff.
Funny stuff.
So-
Although that's
and,
a very Canadian phrase, I think. Hey, no funny stuff, bud.
hey, no funny stuff there, bud. Hey, get out of here, you hoser.
Hey, bud. Hey, give me the maple syrup, some American dollars, bud.
Give me some American dollars and a bourbon and no one gets hurt, eh?
Oh yeah. Who knows? From my understanding, I don't know if there's ever been any Canadian suspects in this story, just because of the timeline and the political stand that like the world was in at that point. So he could have just jumped off. He and his cronies, if he did have any help, drove right across the border. None the wiser. You're done.
Done, son.
And the name Dan Cooper makes so much sense.
I can't believe he's Canadian.
That's if you're asking me to throw my money in the ring, that's mine.
This is
Me
just
too.
proof that that Frederick Wortham was right, and comic books cause violence.
So I know that story was known for a long time. Again, the only story that is actually known is the story that happened. The guy got on the plane, he got the money, he jumped off. Boom, that's it. And the after effect, the boom, the amount of people that have claimed to be DB Cooper is astounding.
I am DB Cooper.
There's so many people.
DB Cooper.
I'm
DB
Spartacus.
Cooper.
I'm Dan. I'm Dirty Dan.
Dirty Dan Cooper.
The amount of people on their deathbeds that have claimed to be DB Cooper is astounding, to the point where if everyone is DB Cooper, no one is DB Cooper.
His name was Robert Paulson.
His
Are
name.
there more
Dan
people who
Cooper.
claim to be Dan Cooper on their deathbed than people who
so
claim to
many.
be Bigfoot on their deathbed?
So many. So many. There was even a suspect who was the first recorded trans person to have gender reassignment surgery in Washington State that claimed to be DB Cooper and said that it was the ultimate disguise to change genders after the fact.
Wow, that's hardcore.
She rescinded her claims, though, after they told her that it was covered under the Hobbs Act and she could go to jail.
I'm just kidding.
Like, oh, no, I can go to jail for this? Never mind. It's fine. But there were also a couple people who tried to, they tried to, quote, sell the story of DB Cooper, claiming to be him. And then they got arrested and were like, fuck, we're not DB Cooper. If you're going to sell a story, why would you pretend to be a wanted criminal? So, yeah, there's a lot of people who claim to be him, who still claim to be him. But also, if you think about it, they said he was 40 years old. At least that's what the flight attendant said, was this man is 40 years old. This was 53 years ago. If that
She's
man
probably
is
dead
still
by now
alive,
anyway.
he's 93?
You're still
he was
jumping out of
40.
planes, man.
That free
If he
healthcare in
smoked as much
Canada.
as he did, that's true.
You can't
if he
coop 'em
smoked
up.
as much as he did, you can't coop the coop. Can't poop the coop? I don't know.
And if
Nope,
they
you can't
made
poop the coop.
if they made a note to say he was smoking a lot in the 60s,
Oh, yeah.
Early 70s, but yes.
Early
early
70s.
70s, my bad.
If you're smoking that
Still,
much back then, like...
enough that
people
people
make
are
a
like,
note
hey,
of
that
it.
guy's kind of smoking a lot. Like, that's, you know?
Or Occam's razor. Dude didn't see the ground coming, and he is just somewhere in the woods buried.
I hope that's not
Yeah.
true.
He's Bigfoot shit.
He may have been stolen by a Bigfoot family, taken to a cave, and now lives with them.
Oh my god!
Yeah. And he gave them his
Previous
cigarettes.
episode. Please
Oh my
listen.
god! Little...
He has a half Bigfoot baby.
Oh, that's
Named,
what the B is for DB.
BG Fooper, the big big footer.
It's
Dan
no, his
Bigfoot.
Dan
BG Footer?
Bigfoot Cooper.
Dan
It's
Bigfoot Cooper.
Bigfoot Cooper. That's what it is.
Oh my god, it all makes sense now. So yeah, there's a lot more. There's a documentary I watched last night on him on Netflix that came out last year that covered a lot of this, but also a lot more of this. Obviously, I can't just smash this into an hour, but honestly, that documentary made me feel kind of sad because it turned into like a private investigator just hounding the what's the third guy I told you about? What's his name?
Kenneth something?
No, Robert Rackstraw.
Oh,
He was like there's videos of him going up to this guy and like hounding him. This is like an old man, like, you know, he's like struggling and is like people are yelling at him and shit. It made me feel really uncomfortable.
Oh.
And it also turned into like a conspiracy theory thing at the end of it, like not by the people who made it, but the people who, like, you know, they were recording the guy who was saying all this shit. And even people in that documentary were like, yeah, that guy's fucking nuts. It's definitely turned into a conspiracy theory sort of thing. Again, Occam's razor, simplest solution. Dude's already dead. He's splatted on the ground, or he's 90-something years old and he smoked heavily. He's dead too.
I think that he's healthy as an ox, 90-year-old, putting around in Quebec somewhere, and he doesn't have any of the money left because of inflation.
He's one of those people where he smoked so much at such a young age that like his lungs are like coated in
That
like
they
a
need it to live.
It's like a protective shellac in his like alveoli, and he's just like walking around smoking like double neck. I am Dan Cooper.
Also, although I think if he had an accent like that, the flight attendant would have been like, yeah, I have the bomb in here.
He just doesn't care anymore.
Mexican dollars. I don't know what the fuck that was. That was not a good accent. Either way, so that's where I'm going to cut the story off. Could be a guy in Canada, which I really think that's the
I hope
coolest
it's a
part of the
Canadian.
story.
That's what I hope.
He could be pancaked on the ground like a pancake person.
Could be Zach.
Could be Zach. It could be Bigfoot. Could be one of the 4 people I mentioned. It could be one of the 1,000 other people that the
Zach,
FBI interviewed.
Why aren't you sharing your money with me? We're married.
It burned in the. It
I'm
burned.
keeping it for a surprise for our 50th anniversary.
Oh,
He's going to throw it in a river
They
in
do
front
say
of
the
you.
50th anniversary is the DB Cooper anniversary.
Yeah.
All right. So what's your favorite thing you guys learned? Ash, go ahead.
that Dan Cooper is a comic book. That's amazing.
That's so cool. It's so
that
fucking
part's really cool.
Zach, what about you?
My favorite part is the no funny stuff.
No funny stuff.
And the Floyd McCoy guy, apparently.
Yeah, and the Floyd McCoy guy, and the spilling the drink.
That is
He's
funny.
just nervous. Like,
I'm still convinced that it was a ruse. He was like, I'm going to spill this drink, and they're going to think I'm a buffoon, and then I'm really going to show them.
okay, good. Beau, what was your favorite thing?
I didn't like the episode, so.
Wow.
I appreciate honesty over anything else.
Okay, wait,
I'm
Beau.
glad you're back.
DB Cooper stands for Dan Beau Cooper. Are you back in?
I'm back for getting. That's my favorite part
he
about
loves
this
that.
episode.
He loves it. All right, Ash, take us out.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Get Dumped On, an Info Dump podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening to Andrew regale us with the tale of the enigmatic DB Cooper. If you like this episode, go back, listen to some other ones. Like us on the social medias. Get Dumped On Pod on Instagram. Zach really wants an email. Thanks, Justin, for sending an email. That was really kind of you, bud.
Oh,
Can we
Justin
get
sent one?
Yeah, we got one email from Justin.
Oh,
Friend
shit. I
of
didn't
the
know that.
pod.
Yeah, what did he send? Was it what I requested?
It was no,
Yeah,
it
he
was
sent
it was a
it was a
meme.
picture of his load.
Nice.
It wasn't. Don't send us
Jesus
that.
Christ.
That is a crime, actually. I'm pretty sure that's a real crime, and you
That's
can't be
100% a
convicted for
crime.
it.
I'm asking for it, so it's not. Just
No,
make sure
I-
you put that in the subject headliner.
No,
Load.
no.
Take us out.
And
Get us out of here.
and with that, I hope you have a good day wherever you are. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Ash and Zach are super smart. They went to college and learned a bunch of stuff. And Beau and Andrew didn't go to college because that's the way life goes sometimes. What happens when you put them together and you try to make them learn? Grab your friends, let's listen together on Get Dumped On, an Info Dump podcast.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
We'll see you in Canada with $200,000.
Hey.
Give me some American money.
American fragrancies.